Call to order the May 27, 2008 meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. May we have the roll call, please?
Agency members Draymond.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Yusefian.
Here.
Chairman Najarian.
Here. To report.
The agenda for the May 27, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency was posted on Thursday, May 22, 2008 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item.
Motion to approve minutes.
So, second. If there's no objections to the minutes, we will deem them approved as submitted. Next item.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the redevelopment agency may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the executive director for an investigation and report.
I have a card from Herbert Milano. He withdraws his request to speak. I have no other cards. Oral communications is closed. Next item, please.
6 on the business agenda is Director of Development Services regarding review of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency and Economic Development Program proposed budget for fiscal years 2008-2009 and 2009-2010. At A1 is a motion directing staff to prepare final budget.
Mr. Lanzafame.
Mr. Chairman, members of the agency, we have a very short presentation for you. If the clerk would bring it up on the screen, I'll start with this is virtually the same budget as you saw last year. We've got 3 projects that are asking for new funding from the redevelopment agency, 2 projects that are capital improvement supporting the general fund, and then there are 2 contractual obligations where we're setting aside funds. In development services, the redevelopment agency budget, it covers our 2 project areas, the redevelopment activity in the central downtown project area in San Fernando Road corridor, and citywide economic development. These are some of the key elements that are included in our budget. The capital improvement program that are agency projects. We also set aside 20% of our tax increment to fund housing that is administered through community development and housing. There's a future bond issue for us to support the capital improvement program that we've been talking about, a repayment of approximately $2 million for the city loan that we have. In 2002, you established a discretionary fund of $3 million per year as part of our financial strategy. We are also looking at opportunities for revenue growth in the general fund. The Americana brand and Embassy Suites are 2 projects examples. We think that there are perhaps 1 or 2 more. These are a brief summary of our revenues. They combine both project areas, broken out into each of the revenue types. Our estimated expenditures, salaries and benefits, maintenance operation, there's the transfer to the general fund. That's a repayment of our loan. Capital outlay is equipment. This year we do not have any. And then capital projects, those are the agency projects. What is not included in here is our debt service. It's approximately $8.5 million, and that is in a different portion of the budget. Some of the issues facing the redevelopment agency is the sunset of our central project area. It's 2015. We cease our effectiveness. We've been asked to look at and investigate potential new project areas. Again, opportunities to support the general fund. The Embassy Suites is a project that does such this, where we're generating transient occupancy tax or hotel tax, so we'll look for those opportunities. And then finally, to fund public improvements in facilities such as parks and libraries and streets, something as the agency's legacy. This is a graphic of some of the importance, we went over this last year, some of the importance of maintaining agency debt. We project that by the end of the time we can collect tax increment, which is 2025, we will, 2027-28, we'll have generated about $720 million in tax increment. This is how it's broken up. What this chart is showing is again the importance of having their debt on the books so that we can maximize the receipt of tax increment until we do sunset, then repay our city loan, which currently stands at about $59 million, and then going forward about 29-30 is about $5 million to the city's general fund. This is the organizational chart for development services. We do have 4 positions vacant, 2 of which are being filled by hourly employees while we're doing recruitments. With that is a very brief overview. The additional slides that are in your packet are for any detail that you'd wish to have, but as I said before, it is virtually the same budget as you saw last year, with the exception of that new funding request for 3 projects.
Questions? Mr. Quintero.
That graph is really off the charts. That one's a hard one to...
Mr. Quintero, the man who put it together, has a master's degree in charts, and
Yeah.
but it is a good representation. Another time, when we have more time, we'll spend some to go through it with you.
I have a
Mr. Youssef.
Phil, could you show me where you have this line item in the slides that deal with, ICSC, we put the room there and all the information for that?
We don't have it in the slides. If you go to your staff report,
It's not in any of these slides? It wouldn't be under marketing or anything like that?
it's Exhibit 6. Yeah. So Exhibit 6 of the staff report, it's a full breakdown of our economic development program. $300,000 per year. We fund that out of some of the rental income from the agency. And we have here Invest in Glendale, and some other printed materials. The ICSC conference is handled under our travel, which is under maintenance and operations. That's lumped into that, where we set aside funding for staff and council members to attend that conference.
And you don't need to have a specific line item for the kiosk and the renting of the place and setting it up and tearing it down?
We would generally do that through this miscellaneous marketing and collateral activities, $9,800. If you're looking at that Exhibit 6.
Yeah, well, that's pretty low.
I think the booth.
The booth we had was very small. There was no place to sit down. I mean, some of you guys came and left. I stood there for about 7 hours, and we had a lot of people that came. There barely any place for them to sit down, and at one point it got pretty crowded, and we had to kind of escort them to the walkway and talk to them outside. And so I thought maybe we need to have something a little bit bigger so you can accommodate people, sit down and...
We can ask for double-wide booth. We have looked to making our reservation right away.
Yeah.
Because those did fill up quickly. We're on a waiting list this year.
Yeah, okay, good. Just want to let you know in advance.
We'll rent you a wheelchair next time.
I'll tell you. Well, you needed that because you were the one who was running around.
I have a speaker. Mr. Drain, would you like to speak before or after? Greg Astorian.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Astorian, Mr. Chair and Mr.'s agency members. On page 4 of your proposed CIP, under the line item, or harking back on what Mr. Yusefian was just mentioning, citywide economic development, you have a total budget of about $603,000, which is about $347,000 allocated for business retention and attraction, about $168,000 for marketing, and approximately $84,000 for local and regional efforts. I believe ICSC will fall under that category. Mm-hmm. But here is my issue with this. You have $31 million proposed budget, out of which about 2%, only 2% is being allocated to marketing and business retention. This, by the way, is the effort that is going to generate the additional sales taxes for this city and the additional property taxes for this city. Most private endeavors that you see, their marketing, business retention, attraction, ranges anywhere between 8 to 12%. So if there is any way that you gentlemen can visit this I mean, you've already been to the ICSC, and you've already seen the kind of results that it can generate, but it needs to be consistent and continue on. My suggestion, well, actually, John Wanamaker was it, I believe, that said that the problem with advertising is that 50% of it goes to waste. The problem is that we don't know which 50%. He should have continued on saying that you got to spend a little bit more money to be able to generate a whole lot more money. This budget, gentlemen, in actuality, and redevelopment agency is the only arm of the government, this city government, that is the closest to private entity, how a private entity should operate. My opinion, at least go to 4 to 6% of your budget. I mean, 2% of $31 million, $600,000 to be able to operate, to attract business, to bring in businesses and so forth,
And keep
is
them.
is at very best extreme frugality. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman?
No, I have no.
I have one last question, and then I would like to entertain a motion. Philip, I mean, in all practicality, at the end of the life of the redevelopment agency, is our affordable housing program going to pretty much run out of money then? Since there's no more 20% set aside?
As long as we are collecting tax increment, we set aside 20% of that. We will stop collecting tax increment by our projections somewhere in the year 28, 29. And that will be through the life of our redevelopment project area, which is 2015, an additional 10 years that the law allows us to collect tax increment to repay debt, and then approximately 3 years to repay the city's debt that we have outstanding.
The debt to the city.
The debt to the city. At that time, our tax increment will cease, and so will the set-aside, where that is. I hope that answers your question.
But that's the I think you still have the San Fernando that goes on.
Still have the San Fernando Road till
Money coming out of that one.
2032.
Mr. Starber?
And I might add, there are bills that get introduced in the legislature every year from individual agencies requesting an extension of the life of their project areas. They're reaching where we will be in 2018 or so, or beyond, requesting extensions in exchange, for example, for allocating some additional tax increment for housing. Some of those are being granted. It's very light. Many of those this year being held in suspense pending a more general bill that would extend the same benefit to all redevelopment agencies. And the likelihood is before the life of our agency comes to a close, something like that will probably extend the life an additional 10 years.
Okay. All right, if there's no further comments?
My only other comment is that when the speaker said extreme frugality, I assume he is referring to Mr. Quintero yet again, continuing on the same theme from earlier today.
He's implying that I'm cheap.
No, just tight. I'm implying that you're
Tight.
tight. Yes.
I'll move 6A1.
For a second?
I'll second that. I just have one thing. If we wanted to increase the 600,000, where would you get it from?
That would be a difficult find.
So you're stretched.
We are stretched because of the funding source. It is through the redevelopment agency, which needs to be spent, as we talked about earlier this year, in the project area or of benefit to the project area.
Got it. Mr. Starber?
If though, however, if in the upcoming year you have a project that entails a land lease, the lease proceeds can be used, is not restricted to use just in a project area, so you could use land lease revenues for that kind of a program.
Sorry, just a second.
You're seconded. Roll call, please.
Council agency members Draymond,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Chairman Najarian.
Yes. Next item,
Is there any agency member or staff comments?
Mr. Yusefian.
I have a couple of comments. Actually, one comment. Last week, I went to Americana twice, one on Thursday and one yesterday, and spent a lot of time there. One thing I would like to agendize is the way the parking structure, the way the parking fees work in Americana. There's a lot of confusion among the people who are using the parking. Some give validations, some they don't give validations, some you have to go to the concierge, sometimes you can't find a concierge. What do you do when you can't? So I need to know how that parking fee structure works, maybe we can discuss it, or somebody can do a report in here so the public will know about it. This is the Americana's parking. I'm finding out a lot of people are parking in city parking lots, and they're just walking across, which yours truly did. I will tell you, on a Thursday, we went there at 3 o'clock. We barely got a chance to eat, and we saw a movie, and by the time we got out at 6:30, Americana was pretty much packed. I talked to several people who worked in the stores and also worked in the at the Cheesecake Factory. Statistically, if my colleagues didn't know, last weekend, when that hot weekend that we were in Las Vegas, for 2 days, Cheesecake Factory served, ready, 33,000 meals. They almost ran out of food for those 2 days. The Forever 21, which I always wish I would be, when it opened, it made $127,000 that day, on opening day. The Monday of that week that I was there, on Thursday, the Monday of that week, they made $57,000. And generally during the days, I mean, the rest of the week, with the exception of Saturday, Sundays, they make about $70,000. I also went to Frida's, which is a new place, yesterday. I talked to them. It was very crowded. Yesterday was extremely crowded. We anticipated everybody will be on a holiday and wouldn't be there. They were all there. Frida's ran out of food Saturday. So, because I asked them, I said, gee, are you successful? And the answer was, we are more successful than what we thought. And by the way, I said, well, you will know how successful you are when you run out of food. She goes, oh, that was yesterday. So they ran out of food. I also walked to the condos, asking them how the sale of the condos are going, because a lot of people have been asking. My understanding is, to my surprise, all the townhouses, all the condos on the top level, all the penthouses, with the exception of one, have been sold. Most of them were in the $2 million range, so there's only one left for $2,099,000. That's all that's left. The rest of them that are lower echelon, they're still in the process of being worked on, so in the 6 weeks they will probably be all completed. And the rentals are taking place. I just thought, since I had done my reconnaissance, I come back and let you know. As Mr. Milano was wondering whether or not, since traffic, there's no problem, how we're doing economically. Apparently, we're doing better than even I thought we were going to do. So it's extremely successful, at least for the 4 weeks it's been open.
Mr. Weaver.
To let my colleagues know, L.A. Police Chief Bratton was there yesterday, too. Saw him when we came out of Cheesecake.
Okay. Any other comments on the state of the Americana? Or celebrity sightings?
He was there twice already.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
How much time before we start?
Ladies and
council?
gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute break. The council's been in session since 8:30 this morning, and we're going to take a 10-minute break.